about that. So, good morning, ladles and jelly spoons. We have this morning the third monthly CADimensions morning show. I'm your host, Jesse Sprague. Got my good friend here, Frank Ortoli, joining me this morning.
How's it going?
We've got a great show for you this morning. I can't help myself. I feel like I have to say that. We do have some fun stuff. Typically, when you see Franco and I together, we're talking about simulation stuff. But today, we actually don't have, I don't think, any simulation stuff to talk about. Oh. We're going to be just kind of sticking with the roots and just using some SolidWorks stuff this morning. So, Franco, you want to go over the agenda for this morning?
Sure. So let's see. We're gonna start off with some tips and tricks, and both of us have a couple quick presentations, quick demos to start off with for some probably not rarely used, but maybe underutilized tools in SolidWorks that we think could be of help for you guys. Not necessarily day to day, but when you're trying to get you out of a jam. And SolidWorks World 2014 is like a week.
It's nearly upon us.
A week and a half away. We're really excited for it. Hope a couple of you are attending, or most of you are attending. We'll see about that. Hopefully we'll see you there. Then we have a product spotlight, which we like to do pretty much every month, and then we'll talk about tech gadgets, which again that's kind of a thing that you and Kevin started last month, and I think I hope we keep it going because we love tech. I love gadgets, and I think it's kind of cool. And then we'll end it off with some Q&A. So hopefully we'll have an entertaining show for you guys. We think it's entertaining. We like this stuff.
We always entertain ourselves.
Yeah, we entertain ourselves. So I guess we'll get started with some tips and tricks. I think I'm going to go first. We'll talk about the indent feature and composite and projected curves. So you need to give me control. There we go. All right, so right now you just see me.
Gotcha.
Do I minimize this?
Yep.
All right.
You'd think we'd never done this before.
Yeah, I know, right? So, all right, so I'm going to start off with the indent feature. I have this part here. In this case, it's just two solid bodies. If we take a look here, anyone been to Essentials class, you recognize this part. It's a power block here. And the indent feature is a relatively newer feature. I mean, it's been around for probably 5-6 years at this point. But it's kind of an enhancement to the cavity feature, or the combine feature where you combine two solid bodies, but it has a lot of really cool tools in addition to that. So I have this block here, and I actually embedded it into another block without merging bodies, obviously. So if I take a cross section, you can see both bodies here look something like that. Okay. So the indent command is found under Insert Features, and it's indent. And you can see here there's two things that it's asking you for. Is a target body, which is this one. This is what's going to be indented, and a tool body region, which is this guy. And I have a couple options in here. Right now, I'm going to ignore these. I'm going to check the cut box, because what this does, and you can see it actually does like a combine, like a subtraction of it. But I have some more options down here at the bottom. I have a clearance value. So I'm going to X out of this, and I'm actually going to go back into section mode, because I want to show you what this actually does. All right, so we'll go back in here, and using my recent commands box, I can do indent, right? Does everyone know about the recent commands box? Very handy, especially if you exit out of a command by accident, because none of us ever do that, right? All right, so my tool body region is this guy. I'm going to click Cut, and if I just click OK and then hide this body, you can see that it does absolutely nothing. And we'll edit that one more time. And that's because my tool body was not selected properly. That's user error right there. All right, so let's show this guy, and we'll delete. I locked it. It's one of those days. It is just one of those days, everybody.
Bad things happen to good people.
Man, I swore when I woke up this morning it was a Monday morning, right? All right, so insert, features, indent. My target body is this one. My tool body is this one. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to click OK and hide this solid body. We can see that it does basically a combine. Okay. If I take a section view this way and I show the solid bodies, it's line to line. All right. The neat part about the indent tool, though, is if I edit this and down here I have a clearance, I can actually put in, for example, a 1 millimeter clearance, and it's going to do an offset of every single one of those faces. Mm-hmm. So when I click OK, now I have a clearance gap. Right, so if I model this part to nominal, right, and I have some tolerances on it, I could do that. Or if I want some slop in there, I could do that. One of the good examples of this is that I've seen is a electric toothbrush. And with the electric toothbrush going into the base, obviously you don't want that a line-to-line fit. You want some play in there because you're waking up in the morning. Kind of like I did this morning. Your eyes are closed.
You're awake. I'm not awake yet.
So you can model a clearance in there, which is really, really nice. That's a big feature to the indent tool. I'm going to change configurations here. And the other advantage to the indent tool here, you can see I have the same block, and this time I just have a sheet modeled. Right. This could be my next project. I need to make a vacuum form. Right, for this product, right, I need to make the packaging for it. Well, I can model the plastic as a flat sheet, and now when I do the indent command, insert, features, indent, my target body, same selections, target body is this one, my tool body is this one. This time instead of cut, I'm just going to say keep selections, and my thickness, we'll do the thickness again, 1 millimeter. And actually I want to do remove selections because I want this side of it. And you can see now when I click OK and I hide this body, it actually added material to this sheet with a 1 millimeter constant thickness. That's really, really powerful. No longer do I have to, if I were to do this using surfacing, right, I would 0 offset or 1 millimeter offset all the surfaces and have to knit them and combine them with the solid. The indent command does all that for you behind the scenes. And it's really fast. You saw how fast that rebuilt. All I had to do was sink it in and click the indent command. So that's really neat. If I change the color of this real quick, just so we can kind of see the difference, we'll change that to a nice pink color and show that with section. We can see that. I can also, if I edit this feature, if I did want some clearance in here, I could do the same thing. So I'll add a 1 millimeter clearance. And now, again, there's a gap between those faces. So the indent command, again, not very frequently used, but I think it should be. There's a lot of applications where you can use the indent command. Again, this is different than the cavity command with a scale. Because it's not actually scaling my model, it's just offsetting all the faces, in this case 1 millimeter. So that's kind of a neat tool that that I think is fairly underutilized, and hopefully you guys can find a need for that at some point.
That'll definitely save you some surfacing if you use it at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, what I wanted to talk about was projected curve. All right, I have this widget part, right, and what I need to do is I need to make this cut. If I take a look this way, that's a very, very complex, it's obviously a swept cut, that's a very complex sweep path because of both this geometry and the S shape that I'm going through here, right? How would I do that? Well, if I delete this sweep, we can take a look at what I did. All right, we see I have a curve in here, and actually I'm going to delete the curve as well. Basically, all I did was I used the curves command and projected curve. what this allows me to do, if I go to projected curve, what this allows me to do is there's two options in here, and I'm going to show you both. The first one I'm going to show you is I'm going to project a sketch onto a face. It works almost exactly the way a split line does, except it doesn't split your face. So I pick a sketch here. I just sketched on the bottom of this, just a random spline. And so I select the spline, and I want to project it onto this face. Notice this box is bigger. I can actually select multiple faces. So if there were lines in here, then you guys can't see my finger that I'm pointing at my screen, so I'll use my mouse. If there were lines in here, then obviously I could just select multiple faces and it would project it up. Click OK, and it actually makes a curve. Make sure your direction is correct too, right? SolidWorks gives us these nice gray arrows that I blatantly ignore. So make sure your direction is right. When you click OK, what it does is it makes a 3D curve. If I hide this body as well, it makes a 3D curve, which in this case is very complex. If you were to try to sketch this with a 3D sketch, I mean, that would take you forever, right? But this way, I made a nice, easy 2D sketch and just projected it onto a 3D curve. We'll show the body, and basically, now all I do is sketch onto this face, right? And sketch a circle. What's the command, right? What do we use when we use a sweep? Pierce, right? The pierce command is between a point and a line, or in this case, a curve. And then very easily I can sweep cut here to here.
Just going to leave that under defined, huh?
I am just going to leave it under defined because with our technical difficulties and my complete lack of SolidWorks knowledge, clearly we need to move this show along. So don't ever leave your sketches under defined, please. Blue sketches are not necessarily good. All right, so that's one use for the projected curve. The next use is you can actually project a sketch onto a sketch. So when I was preparing for this, basically what I did is I did a quick Google search of car top front view sketch. And so if you guys Google that, you'll find this car. I thought it was kind of a neat little neat sketch here. It's a little toy car, I guess. And so please, if somebody made this that's listening or ever watching this, please don't sue me for copyright infringement. I don't know who made this. Anyway, so what I need to do is I need to come up with this edge right here, right? That line in the car. So we can see that it's this line here goes under the window at the top of the door all the way back to the back bumper. And from the top view, you can see it starts almost halfway in the middle of the hood, about a quarter of the way in the hood, and it kind of wraps around this way here. To get that geometry, because eventually it's going to end up out here, right? To get that geometry, it's very, very difficult, right? I'd probably sketch that and extrude it up and then sketch it from the side and cut it, but then you don't know if that's correct. So what I ended up doing, was I made two sketches. I made a sketch on the top plane, and I'll show that sketch here, and it's in red. And basically, I guess I didn't do a great job of tracing it, but basically what I did with this spline is I traced that line on the top plane. In fact, let's edit this sketch, and let me fix that. I didn't notice that when I was messing around with it. We want to be more like that, I guess. Right? It doesn't really matter for demonstration purposes, but all right. Does everyone know you can change the colors of your sketch, by the way? If you've sat through my Essentials class, you know. But other than that, and maybe you didn't know, if you right-click on a sketch, you can go to Sketch Color, and what it does is you can basically brings up a palette here, and you can change your sketch color to whatever you want. So especially in cases like this, you can actually have it stand out a little bit more. Yeah, especially if you're doing a lot of layout sketches and you want to differentiate. Changing your sketch color is very handy. So I did the same thing on the front view, or on the front plane, and I traced this line. All right. So if I hide these two sketches with my pictures, right, you can see I have two sketches that look like that. So using my projected curve, yeah, please.
Before you keep going, that's a handy thing in and of itself. I always recommend doing that myself, where you have the images in their own sketches.
Yeah.
That way you can just turn that sketch on and off, and you don't have to worry about hiding any of the geometry that you're trying to use with it. I always start a sketch, place my image, and then make a duplicate sketch over top of it so I can independently control those.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I did it here just subconsciously because I knew I was going to hide those sketches. I wanted to make sure, obviously, I didn't hide this curve geometry. So thank you for pointing that out. I didn't even think of that. Okay, so I have these two sketches here, and I'm going to use my projected curve again. This time, instead of sketch on faces like I did for the last part, I'm going to use sketch on sketch. And what this does is it allows me to select two sketches. I can either select them from the tree or the graphics area, and let's take a look at what it's doing. Right? So what it does is it basically takes the combination of those two sketches and makes the same idea. It makes a curve, a 3D curve, out of that geometry. Now, if I were to do this in a 3D sketch, how long would that take? And could I ever fully define that? No, absolutely not. There'd be more dimensions on there than actual sketch geometry. So, you know, it's a really neat idea. And let's take a look at what that does. If I just go to a front view here, real quick, we'll just go to a front view. You can see that the curve disappears. It's basically because it's taking that geometry on the front plane and projecting it this way. If I just go to a top view, you can see that it matches that exactly. All right, so that's basically what it does. Is it projects the curve onto a curve, and it's the sum of the two curves basically. So now I can use this as a boundary for a surface. And actually, I think Jesse might be showing something like that, right? I kind of saw you
roughly. Yeah, I have a couple of surfacing tips.
Yeah. Jesse's one of our surfacing gurus. So basically, you can use this as a boundary edge, right? So I would do it for this one. I do it maybe for the bottom edge, and then maybe loft or fill surface between the two, or boundary surface between the two, or multiple ones. So those are again kind of a tool that gets a little bit underutilized, and it gets you very complex geometry very easily. The setup is very easy, and it's easy to control now, right? Because now I have these two sketches that I can independently control. And I can move this curve, right? So if I move this point up, it's going to move this area up, rather than trying to control a complex 3D curve.
Mix that with a style spline, we got ourselves a party.
There you go. The last thing I want to show, real quick, is a composite curve. All right, so under curves, we have projected curve, composite curve. Maybe for a future topic would be curve through XYZ or curve through reference points. Most people know how to make a helix and spiral in SolidWorks, and you use it to make springs and things like that. But a lot of times, the end of your spring is where it causes a lot of problems, right? So I want to put this loop in here, for example. But I want to make sure that the loop follows my spring circle, right? I don't necessarily want it coming straight out. And so basically, I used a combination of curves. You can see my projected curve here. If I show you the two sketches there, basically what I did is made an arc to make sure that it follows this arc from the top view, and I made a curve over here to make sure that it would capture my loop. So that way what this does, and it's kind of tough to see, maybe I can get it from this angle here, you can see that the loop actually follows the same radius as that arc, right? In fact, it even loops back on itself this way, right? Again, if you wanted that geometry. And then here, the helix actually ends over here. And I just created a 2D sketch, you can see sketch 2 here, of an arc with the same radius as my helix. Well, if I wanted to sweep my wire now, right, for my spring, I would very easily go to Swept, Boss, click that, and click my path. Except it stops at the end of my helix,
Broken.
right? Because this is a separate entity, you know. So what we do is we use the other command, the composite curve, where I can select any number of objects that are touching, right? They have to be touching, obviously. They have to be contiguous. So this one, and then
That's a great word.
Contiguous. So I have these three objects now. So we have a curve, a sketch, a sketch and a helix, and I say OK. And what that does is it basically merges them all together. It's almost like the convert entities of curves, right? So it just blends all the curves together into one curve. Now, when I sweep this, it goes all the way through. And I have my spring. Okay, and the solid, you can see it a little bit better what it's actually doing. All right. Whereas this geometry would be fairly difficult to create, again, with a 3D sketch. You know, when you want to work in 2D sketches are a whole lot easier, especially for not necessarily a novice user, but someone who doesn't really deal in 3D sketches very often can get rather cumbersome.
In general.
Yeah, and they're faster and they're easier to control and fully define. So, so those are the two curves that I had. I'm going to make Jesse presenter here to go back to the PowerPoint.
It's a little sneak preview at the advanced part.
Yep, that model is actually a similar model is available in the advanced part class.
All right. Thanks, Franco. I don't think I'm going to be quite as long-winded as that, but I've got a couple of...
I get excited, I'm sorry.
A couple of tips for you. My two are going to be the intersect tool. As Franco was mentioning, I kind of have a soft spot for surfacing. So the intersect tool is one of the tools that we have available to us through surfacing, but I'll show you that it's not necessarily only useful for surfacing. And the other one is the replace entity, which if you came to the rollouts, you saw, and I'm going to give you just a brief snippet of that, that again, because it's the coolest thing ever. So let's switch back over to SolidWorks. So Franco mentioned my surfacing part that we were working on. And what we have here is just a handful of different surfaces. And these surfaces are all just kind of intersecting each other. And this is fairly typical when you're setting something up in SolidWorks using surfacing to try to get some complex shape. Now it's a lot easier to break it down into what shape each side takes on in order to kind of generate each face independently. If you're not aware of what surfacing is in SolidWorks, surfacing is basically allowing you to speak the language of SolidWorks. It's allowing you to create each face independently, which is what SolidWorks does for you in the background when you're creating solids. Right? It creates all those surfaces and it says, okay, I know these are all one unit. Well, when you're doing surfacing, it gives you the freedom to kind of diverge from that. You can create everything independently and then pull it all back together. And that's exactly what we have here. So you can see that each one of these surface bodies, I have several surface bodies here in my tree. Each one of these surface bodies is its own body, and it's defining each face. But we see that each face is significantly larger than what I need for the final. What I'm trying to get for this final shape is a solid that really is the intersection of all these together. And that key word is where the intersect tool comes in really, really handy. The intersect tool in general, I think, was new in 13. It's only been around for a couple of years, and it's a really handy one when you know when to use it. It's got a lot of different uses, and in this case what we're going to use it for is basically an auto trim. So with surfacing, if you've taken my surfacing class or are interested in taking my surfacing class, we go through a lot of things similar to this. And what surfacing allows you to do is draw those faces independently and then trim them all together to create the actual final shape that you need. Well, that can be fairly tedious in trying to get all those surfaces trimmed off to each other. What intersect allows us to do is actually find enclosed regions. And the intersect tool, I'm on my surfacing toolbar right now. If you don't see a surfacing toolbar, remember that you can always right-click on your command manager and add in tabs. I've got my surfacing toolbar turned on for this example, and in my surfacing toolbar I have my intersect tool sitting here. And the intersect tool allows me to pick a handful of things. We can pick surface bodies, solid bodies, even a plane to use as intersect references. So what I want to do is select all of my surface bodies, and I'll do that by just expanding out my tree and just shift selecting all of my surfaces. When I say intersect, what it does is it searches for an enclosed region, and it finds one. So all of my surfaces hit each other, and I don't have any extra holes. All right, that's important. We want to make sure that everything is an actual enclosed region. The other option that I often turn on is to consume the surfaces. If my surfaces were just for reference in order to generate this one solid, I don't need my surfaces anymore, so I can go ahead and consume those in the operation. And when I say OK, look at that, one click, and I got rid of all of my surface bodies. You'll notice that they're not in my tree anymore. It consumes them in the intersect, and it does all of that trimming work for me automatically, leaving me with one solid body.
So can I interject? So for anyone who does do surfacing, so that it trims, knits, and
try to form solid.
All in one click. Yep. That's awesome. If we unmute you guys, I better hear clapping, right?
That's right. So that's a really neat use for the intersect tool, but it can do a lot more than that, which is kind of neat. One of the other things that I'll show here is this case scenario, because I think this could be a very handy one for a lot of people who may not even use surfacing. The intersect tool can save you if you're doing something like this. In this case, I've got a legacy mold part. So we find that I've got two imported parts that are stuck together, and all it is the mold cavity for this part. And this happens fairly frequently. We have a mold that was designed in some other software other than SolidWorks, or even if it was designed in SolidWorks, but we don't have the original part. Now it comes, years down the road, we need to pull that part back in and make some modifications to it. SolidWorks does have the ability to do direct editing on our imported bodies, but in this case, I don't even have the imported body to start from. All I've got is the two pieces with the cavity. So for the actual mold, I can use the intersect tool because it searches for those enclosed regions. I can use the intersect tool to actually extract that information back out. I think this is one of the coolest uses for the intersect tool. One of many, like I said, but one of the cooler ones. So what I can do is say, okay, these are the two solid bodies that I want to intersect together. And when I choose intersect, it comes up with three regions. All right, so it found this third region inside of there. So I've got my top region and my bottom region. What's left is this internal region. And again, if I consume anything, I've got solid body, so I guess I don't need to do that. But when I say OK and accept this command, it gives me the original part. And from there on, I can do whatever modifications I need to from there. So that is by far the fastest way to extract that information back out of a mold or something that we had. So I think that's one of the really cool uses for intersect. Intersect can do many other things. If you've got a surface body that you want to intersect with a solid and you just want to fill in that region, sometimes an extrude up the surface will work, but if it's a complex region, then that can get kind of tricky. Intersect will fill that in for you. Intersect will cut and fill at the same time.
Yep.
I think their demo was kind of like a saw piece.
It was a router. Or it was a modem. It was a cable modem that it indented the material, and it also extruded the logo, the Wi-Fi logo or something. For those of you that went to our rollouts, it was 2013 because it was I did the demo.
Right.
And so it's really neat. Instead of having to, like Jesse said, extrude up the surface and then cut with surface and things like that, the indent command on that aspect of it was really neat. I actually that's pretty cool. I haven't explored that tool enough to see that it does that. That's really cool.
It's a great use for it, and it's definitely one that kind of gets hidden. Again, it's shown in our surfacing class, so if you're interested in taking that, there's a lot more like that in the surfacing class, but that's kind of one of the cool ones that's sort of buried in there because it's not directly surfacing, so I figured I'd bring it up. That's kind of a neat one.
Maybe I should take your surfacing class.
Maybe, maybe. Okay, intersect tool, awesome. The other one that I wanted to talk about was replace entity. So in case you didn't come to the rollouts, replace entity is an extremely simple tool, but it can definitely be a lifesaver. And again, I just have a simple example of this, but what I want to do is make some modifications to this sketch. Now again, this is simple, but I've got some fillets on here, and we all know if I've got a tree,
your sketch is underdefined there, just so you know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So if we've got some downstream features, which often happens, right? We never just have one feature and then part's done. Feature trees can get pretty lengthy, and with SolidWorks, everything being feature-based, they're all stacked on top of each other. So we've got to be a little bit careful in what we do upstream that could potentially affect what's down the line. And if I go to swap this out with something else, so I just place some other type of geometry in here, and I remove this line, what happens is it blows up because that line is now not known by SolidWorks. It's just another entity that showed up out of the blue, and it has no idea how to remap that to where we're supposed to go. So if we undo that, we've got a new tool in SolidWorks 2014 that can be a real lifesaver if you need to make modifications like this, because we all know that this happens, right? We never draw it once and ship it out, machine it, and it's gone. There's always revisional,
some of us do. Yeah, some of us. But,
yeah. There's always revisional changes, and again, a simple example of it, but the principle still stands. If I go back and edit this sketch again, my underdefined sketch, and we do the same thing. I put in my new geometry. I want to bubble out the side of this a little bit. We can replace this with the new geometry, replace the old. And what that does is it allows SolidWorks to realize. So if you're telling SolidWorks, hey, I'm making this change, this is now this. All right, so they equal each other, and that ID can stay the same. So if I go to delete this now, instead of saying just, yeah, kill it, if I say replace, that launches my replace entity tool, which we can also get to from the right-click menu through the toolbars. And it says replace this entity with this entity. I even have the option to leave the old one and just replace it with a new one and leave it for construction. So if down the road I think I may need to return this, I'm not really sure about what changes I'm making here, I can leave that original one in there. In this case, I'll just delete it. So I'll say replace with this one, that guy. Once we accept, it deletes that line, replaces it with this one, and now when I exit this sketch, I have no errors because SolidWorks now realizes that that straight line has been converted to that arc. All right, so it's able to track, it's able to track all that in the background and update. So we see that it now replaced the fillets, which were a fillet feature, to that new entity, so replaced on the corners, even though I had selected that old entity as one of the requirements for that fillet, and of course continues that around the top edge. So that can be a huge lifesaver. Obviously, this is a way oversimplified example of it, but with a lengthy tree, that can save you. Cool. All right. Shall we continue on?
Yep.
All right. Moving on to
SolidWorks World 2014, San Diego, California. Woo! Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm that excited. Just I don't know how many of you have been to SolidWorks World. I've been a number of times. Actually, Jesse and I both went last year, and it's really cool. It's a lot of fun, and the education that you get in those 3, 4, 5 days, depending on if you go a little bit early, stay a little bit late, is amazing. Officially, it's January 26th to the 29th. Again, it is in San Diego, California. There's over 200 user sessions that you can sign up for. Obviously, you can't fit all of them in, but if you go to solidworks.com/SWW, I probably should have put that on the slide, then you can view the agenda. The general sessions, you can see a picture of the general sessions over here on the lower right-hand corner. I mean, I think last year there were close to 5,000 people.
Yeah,
right? Something like that. And they get bigger and bigger every year. The general sessions are awesome. I remember a few years ago they introduced us to the Nest. Those of you who are into that kind of stuff, the Nest is the little circular thermostat that you mount in your house. It's a smart thermostat. They didn't debut at SolidWorks World, but I saw it there first. They always have really neat keynote speakers. Obviously, the CEO of SolidWorks, the CEO of Dassault is always there, and just the speakers that they have there are amazing.
Yeah, last year I think they had the guys who built the balloon for the Red Bull Stratus project, where they jumped from 1 billion miles up and fell at 800 miles an hour or whatever.
He broke the sound barrier falling.
Yeah,
so
they had them talk. It's really cool. You get to hang out with other users, which is even neater than it sounds, I think, because you get to talk with other people who are using the software. SolidWorks is a really heavy community-based software. So to have an event where that many people get together, and like Franco said, having all of the speakers, and they spotlight products that have been designed in SolidWorks. We'll talk about I think a couple later on that are just so cool. The energy is amazing there. So last year was my first time going out, and it is an amazing experience for sure. The partner pavilion is really neat. You can kind of see, so here's a picture here that I took of the partner pavilion last year. Just all sorts of different companies that are associated with SolidWorks that show up. You can check out their products. We met some really cool people from different companies that we got to talk to. Hardware manufacturers, other software manufacturers that are partnered up with SolidWorks.
Not to interrupt, I've been to a number of trade shows, and the partner pavilion, just the little subsection of the partner pavilion, is neater than any other trade show I've ever been to. The things that they do, the demos that they do. There's something that I didn't put on the slide. There's a Model Mania contest, which basically you go in and it's a closed room, and you try to model something. They give you a drawing and you try to model it faster than everybody else, and you end up winning a prize. I think the top 3 customers and then the top 3 resellers win like a video card, or actually I think number 1 is a computer.
Yeah,
I think they give away a computer, which is really neat, and it's a good way to test your skills. Certifications, they do certification exams right there. I think they do the CSWP and probably the CSWA, I would imagine.
I'm not sure.
I'm not 100% sure, but they do, they'll give away certifications there, or they'll give away coupons for certifications there. Obviously, like any trade show, there's lots of sort of knick-knack giveaways. There's always a book bag that they give you, which is cool.
Yeah, SolidWorks wants you to come so bad that they've developed this letter that you can hand to your manager and say, "This is why I need to go to SolidWorks World."
Yeah.
And it is worth it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, not so much even for the atmosphere, but just the education.
Yeah.
Push it
just the other day, we're going back to our notes from last year.
Yep.
To check on something on a session that we went to. Some of us take better notes than others, but we still have great notes just from a couple sessions that we went to, and they're still helpful. So.
Yeah, so SolidWorks.com/SWW is the SolidWorks World, or you can just Google SolidWorks World 2014 and it'll take you to it. And you can download manager justification letters. I don't know if the promotion is still going on. I thought I just saw it as buy 2 get 1 free. So
I did see something about that.
Again, I don't know if that promotion is still going on. I didn't check this morning, but so you buy 2 tickets and you get 1 for free. So you can send 3 people. So just really neat. I can't stress that enough. If any of you have gone, you can talk to your coworkers, and that you share the same excitement that we do about it. Plus, it's in San Diego in the middle of January. Right. So most of our customers are in upstate New York. So getting out of this weather and going to San Diego is a plus.
Real tragedy.
Yeah. So give us a call if you have any questions on SolidWorks World. All of us have been, and we all pretty much share the same excitement for it. So cool.
Still you. All right. Product spotlights. How are we doing on time? Getting close on time. We have a couple things that we want to highlight. So product spotlight, I think last month we did some hardware gadgets. We've got a couple of gadgets to show you later. So this month we decided to spotlight a couple of products that are already there. And as Franco said, maybe underutilized, or maybe you just haven't tried them yet. And they're both really great tools. PhotoView 360, I think, is one that I find surprisingly underutilized. PhotoView 360 is a rendering software that's built into SolidWorks. And it's a subset of a huge rendering package that's built right into ours, and it's designed for ease of use. But I guess before we go too far, I guess we should talk about what rendering even is, because often sometimes I speak with people and they're not even sure what a rendered image is, compared to just a regular image. So when you're working in SolidWorks, you've got your model that's shaded. And there's various modes of shading in SolidWorks, right? We've got our real view graphics that we can turn on. We've got shadows that we can add, ambient occlusion, which shades based on the surrounding geometry. And then we've got perspective, which isn't part of shaded mode, but it's in the same vein, so they include that there. And if we ratchet through these, we can see that our graphics changes. None of these are actual rendered images. We can take a look at something that's rendered. Actually, let me switch back to something. Let me just unhide this slide here. So this, for example, is, get back here. No, didn't unhide. Okay. So this, for example, is an image that I rendered last year. They changed the rendering package a little bit last year. This is a rendered image right out of SolidWorks. This isn't even a solid model, actually. It's just a bunch of surfaces that are put together. And this took me 45 minutes, maybe, half an hour, to set up and fully render. So this is what we're talking about when we're in the realm of rendered images. Now, sometimes you can end up with a rendered image that doesn't look fully photorealistic, but that's the goal of rendering, right? To be photorealistic, and that hence the name PhotoView 360. So the goal is to take your shaded model and move it to something that looks as if you had taken an image of it. And this product is very easy to use, and from 13 on, I think, is even easier to use. They've built in a ton of new cool tools into PhotoView 360 last year. But the way that this works is because it's built into SolidWorks, it builds off of your appearances. So appearances are really easy to add in SolidWorks. Drag and drop apply to a variety of different applications, right? Faces, bodies, whatever you want that to apply to, you can specifically attach that. And that's all I've done here. I didn't model this. I got it from GrabCAD, I think, somewhere. I found this wheel model, thought it was a neat model, and decided to play with it. And I would definitely recommend, if you haven't gotten into PhotoView 360 yet, give this a try. Last month we talked about me being into cars. You could say I'm obsessed. I don't know if that's the right word. It might not be strong enough.
Yeah. Yeah, obsessed is an understatement for Jesse.
So I found this wheel. I like BBS wheels. So I decided, hey, why don't I try playing with PhotoView 360 on this model that I found? And that's a great way to learn how to use PhotoView 360. Find a product, just go download a model that's something you're interested in, and then Saturday morning when you're looking for something to do, it's raining out, sit down and just start playing with it. It's really not that easy, and like I said, it's based right on SolidWorks, so you can drop your appearances on and then move from there.
It is really that easy.
It really is. I have a couple recommendations for using PhotoView 360. Set up with a camera. That makes a big difference. So your mindset when you're taking a rendered image should be that of you actually sitting down with a product and snapping an image of it with your camera. I used to work in a photo studio, so this comes somewhat natural to me. But what you see in this image, I created from scratch just in SolidWorks. This is actually just a studio that I built. Actually, I think I have the model here handy. It's a small studio essentially that I built to kind of show that off. If I use my top level, love that button. Yeah, okay, so here we go. So what I've got is just a small studio, if you will, that I built just to take this picture. So I've got some imperfections built into this model because that's really the key, and as odd as it sounds, is really the key in making things look believable. A lot of times when you're rendering, they look too perfect. And your eye can instantly pick that up. So in setting these things up, it's handy to just kind of make things that look imperfect, look realistic. And all I've done in this case is just taken my model that I downloaded, dragged on a couple of appearances for it. Right? I wanted a painted effect in the middle, a decal in the center, just right within SolidWorks, chrome effect on the lips here. And then I just found this image on Google, and I stretch it right on, just a decal. All right. Bump mapping is a great thing that you can use that will actually add detail. Just an image of tire marks, and like I said, I just built a small studio. I set up a camera that's pointed with the lens that I wanted, the direction that I wanted. You can adjust your lighting, just like you were setting up to take an image. Render is all there is to it. we've got some cool rendering products that you'll probably see coming out in a little bit. So we like, all of the videos that you see in our rollouts are rendered through PhotoView 360. We don't use anything else. So it's right through the included product. And I guess I should stop because I really like PhotoView 360.
So if you guys have any questions about applying decals, setting up a camera, the studio is pretty straightforward. You can see it's just basically
blocks.
Yeah, it's just basically blocks with textures on them. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to give us a call.
Give it a try.
Go to our website. You submit a case. Give us a call at any one of our offices.
Jim and I did a webinar
Yeah.
about a year or
That was
so
probably
ago.
a year ago.
That should be on our YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
So yeah, that's awesome. We love PhotoView 360 just because of the power of it and how cool you can make images look very quickly. Even some of the default studios are great.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. And because it uses the SolidWorks materials and the SolidWorks appearances.
You don't have to redo anything.
Right. All right. Let's go.
Cool.
We're running very short on time.
SolidWorks RX. Do you want to
Yes.
switch over to you?
Yep. All right. Minimize this. So this one I actually don't have a model because it's not necessarily a modeling issue. This is more of a troubleshooting and computer diagnostics tool. SolidWorks RX, I highlighted it in our rollouts a couple of years ago, and I try to highlight it in all my training classes and anytime I do any sort of customer-facing thing, because it's really not super known unless you have a problem. But it is a really neat tool, and in SolidWorks 2013, you can actually access it right from within SolidWorks. On your task pane, if you go to the SolidWorks Resources tab, right here you can click SolidWorks RX. If you don't have SolidWorks 2013 or above, it's right in your Start menu under SolidWorks Tools, I believe. But if you click off SolidWorks RX, what it does is it basically gathers some system information from you. And you can see we have tabs across the top here or links here. But basically the most important one that you're going to handle or you're going to go into most is your diagnostics tools. And what this does is it checks your video card for compatibility against the SolidWorks website, against the SolidWorks recommended video card drivers. So you can see here I have a Quadro FX 2800 with the proper video card that I downloaded from this this URL. All right, if you have a red X or an I or something here, and there's a key down here at the bottom, you can see that right here. You can actually just click on this link right here, and it'll take you right to the SolidWorks website or right to the downloads page to get you the proper driver. So a lot of times, if you call in and you're having video issues, one of the first things they ask you for is one of the first things we ask you for is your video card. Is your video card driver up to date? And this is a very quick and easy way to see if it is. Supported operating system, obviously you can't get here from there if that's not supported. Things like backup directories, how much free space you have on your hard drive, because that can cause issues if you're running very low on hard drive space. Not so much an issue anymore just because hard drives are so cheap and space and memory is so cheap. But free system RAM, you can see that here, and all sorts of other things, how your toolbox is set up and things like that. Green check marks and yellow X's are okay. Green check marks obviously are good. Yellow X is things like SolidWorks is running, right? Yeah, okay, that's fine. I don't mind the SolidWorks is running. But basically, so we have a troubleshooting tab here, and what this does is this is kind of neat, is that it has links to the customer portal. So if you are on subscription services, you can click any one of these links, and it will direct you right to the knowledge base, and it'll answer a lot of your questions on installation, hardware, display, etc. So not that we don't want you calling us, but this is something that you may want to check out so that you eliminate certain factors with your tech support issues. So we kind of move along the process a little bit faster. But by all means, give us a call. I don't want to discourage you from that, but it's just kind of another resource that you have, so you don't have to like Google it or anything like that. Come to SolidWorks RX. It'll link you directly to the knowledge base. It will ask you to log in, so you do have to have a customer portal account, which I recommend that everybody has. If you're on subscription services, just go to SolidWorks.com and click the login button at the top, and you can create your customer portal account. System maintenance, this is, again, another underutilized tab. This is really neat. If anyone runs like CCleaner or any of the other of those registry mechanic type programs, this is kind of that light, right? It's geared towards SolidWorks. And you can see here, you can clean out your SolidWorks temporary directory, your internet files, because sometimes that can cause your computer to act weird, your cookies and things like that, or other temporary files in SolidWorks data folders. You can actually browse to random other folders or whatever other folders you want, and you can clean those out right from in here. So that's kind of neat, and you can do that right within this one user interface that cleans out all these directories. You can also run check disk on multiple drives and run a defrag on multiple drives right from in here. So it's kind of an all-in-one. It's really neat. It just gathers a bunch of different Windows tools, and it's kind of neat that we do that. If you are having problems, then a lot of times you call us up and we'll say, can you send us an RX? Right, that's our kind of shorthand for SolidWorks RX. And this is where you go. You go to Problem Capture tab. And what this does is it allows you to record a video of your problem. So if you have a recurring problem, it allows you to record a video of you recreating that problem. And here, the second step, it packages up all those files into a nice zip file that you can email us. And then we'll have the SolidWorks log file. We'll have this video so we can actually watch you do it. You know, your system event log, your the files that are in question, right? So if there's corruption in the files, or if it's only file specific, it'll actually package all that up into a zip file that you save. You can see that right here. And if you don't want to send certain things, if you're uncomfortable sending certain things, you can open up the zip file and just take the files out. Obviously, the more information that we have and the more information that SolidWorks has, the better we can help you. But and then just a little quick description. It makes like basically an HTML file that we can read, and you can send that all in. For any bugs that you happen to find, the very, very rare bugs that are in SolidWorks, right? Nobody ever finds those. Then SolidWorks always asks for an RX, unless it's a very glaring, glaring issue. They'll always ask for an RX. So you'll have to do this anyway. It's probably not a bad idea to start with one. And that's it. Basically, there's an add-ins tab where basically you can go to you can start a SolidWorks benchmark, which is kind of neat. And this is located right here as well in the start menu. But what this does is it basically benchmarks your computer with a bunch of other machines, and you can see where your machine rates. That's good ammunition for your IT or your manager, right, to get a new computer. If you're ranked very, very low on the list and you want to get your productivity up, you can start the benchmark. It takes about, depending on the machine, obviously, it takes about up to a half an hour, maybe sometimes 45 minutes.
Do it over lunch. Yeah,
do it over lunch for sure. And then it'll basically give you a report of your benchmark, and you can submit that to a website, and it'll actually rank your machine. It doesn't send any personal information. It just sends the specs of your machine, like the hardware specs of your machine, up to the website, and you can see where you rank, which is kind of neat. We do it for all of our demo machines, and we do it for our training machines to see.
On our Cray supercomputer?
Yeah, on our Cray. So that's kind of neat. That's what I had for SolidWorks RX. Again, it's located in SolidWorks from 13 above right here, or if you go into your Start menu, it's located under SolidWorks Tools. All right. I'm going to give you, actually, I'll just pull up that, I'll just pull up.
Too soon.
I'll pull up that slide. So we got, it's an out-of-date slide, but next I'm going to talk about 3D connection. I do have a poll here, and I probably shouldn't necessarily do this because we're running out of time, but I'm going to try it. And I'm going to poll you guys. If you can just answer this poll. How many of you use a 3D mouse? That's basically, you use typically your left hand, and you can rotate a space ball. There are a bunch of different terms for it.
My mouth it looks pretty 3D.
Yeah. All right, cool. So it looks like most of you do not have one. Basically, 3D connection is the number one 3D mouse manufacturer. They look like this. Can you see me or no?
Oh, we have to close the poll.
Okay, we have to close the poll here. So I'm going to close that. Okay, there we go. So this is the smallest one that they make, and they started about $100. It's about $100. And basically what you do is, I don't have a demo for it on the computer, but basically you manipulate this puck, if you will, as if you were manipulating your model, right? So if you pull it towards you, you zoom in, you push it away, you zoom out. You can rotate left and right and all around it. And it's really, really cool. If you guys ever want to see a demonstration, by all means come into our office, any one of our offices, and we'll be happy to show you one. So like I said, they range from about $100 to up to $400. This is the low end one. I forgot what this one is called specifically, but now actually 3D Connection. If we go to their website, if I can share my screen, you can see my screen, right?
Yep.
If I go to their website, you can see here they now have a wireless one, which is really neat. It works just like the wireless mice. And if I go to products, we can see the Space Pilot Pro. I guess this is called the Space Mouse. The Space Pilot Pro is really neat, and that looks like this. All right, so it's fairly large, right? But look at all the buttons on here. There's even an LCD screen that you can see here, the little demonstration. I don't know how well the video is coming across on the webinar, but you can even check your email on here. Right, so you can check your calendar. You can see here it's scrolling through emails. You can program every single one of these buttons to anything you want. You can program macros to them. Here you have an escape, a control, an alt. Right, so really it takes away a lot of the need for you having to go to your keyboard. Really,
especially because your hand's right there.
Yeah, I mean your hand's going to be resting on it all the time. Your left hand, if you're right-handed, your left hand is going to be resting on it all the time, and the rotating the geometry in SolidWorks or any 3D package is very much smoother with the 3D mice than it is.
Yeah, you can see it if you're watching somebody use it. It's very fluid.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. That's my product spotlight for the day. I'm going to hop back to Jesse here. I think I have to make you presenter.
Okay. Yeah, that's a neat product. Definitely, if you see somebody using one of those, they can really fly. When you get used to it, you can move around pretty quickly. It's a neat addition. So Franco talked about the 3D Connection mouse. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is something that I really, really like. It's a product that they actually spotlighted last year at SolidWorks World. So I mentioned we would talk about one of those briefly.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
I see somebody has their hand raised. If you have a question, please type it into the chat dialog, and we'll answer it either live or via chat here. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So the Gravity Light is a product that they brought up at last year's World, and I thought it was just the coolest idea. I think one of the presentations was by Vijay Kumar last year, and I think he's a instructor for what school? I can't recall what school, but they build these really cool small little quadcopters. They all see each other. You've probably seen videos of them. And in his presentation, he was saying how grateful he is to be part of a software that's such community-based, and because of where SolidWorks is priced in the market, it's affordable enough for really anyone to get in and use it, and it's powerful enough to fully design something. And he said that it's cool that SolidWorks allows, the globe, the world, to put more shots on goal. I think it was him that said it, and I thought it was such a cool way to phrase it. And this is one of those products that they mentioned that I thought was just such a cool shot on goal, if you will. And that's the Gravity Light. And what these guys have developed is a light that's powered just by gravity, so it works like a grandfather clock. And it's an LED light that they've developed. It's really, really inexpensive. And it ships in this package that you see. So it ships in this, and what you do is when you get the light, you pull the light out, you fill the bag that it comes in full of rocks or dirt or whatever, and you hang up this bag, and it slowly drops, and it powers the LED light. So for places in the world, they've got, this is a picture from them, they've got, I think, 1,000 lights out right now that are in testing phases. This is somewhere in Africa. I'm not sure exactly where this shot was taken, but so for places where they have no electricity, they can hang this up and it'll run with the LED light for half an hour, and they can hang it back up and it runs for another half an hour. Really cool. This is their first iteration of it. It just came out for their first line of testing. Really, really neat idea, and they're continuing to develop this more to be able to charge cell phones and other devices, so that places where it's really tough to get access to, they can get access to with some power. Insects, apparently, which I didn't realize. So diseases can be reduced quite a bit. Awesome product, designed by SolidWorks, and I thought it was one of the coolest things. That I've been trying to pull up some things to support them as well. So really cool. Another great reason to go to World, because you get to see inspiring stuff like this, where people are just doing amazing things with the SolidWorks product. So I think that's all we have for this morning. I think, aside from one brief announcement.
Do you want to give me back control?
I will.
Call it the PowerPoint here. So the last thing that we want to talk about is, first of all, thank you guys all for attending. Thank you for your patience earlier this morning while we had some technical difficulties. But
we had a full show as it was.
Yeah, I know. I did want to announce for those of you in the Rochester area that we're having an open house here at CADimensions on Friday, February 7th from 10 to 3. Obviously, you don't have to come and stay the whole time, but we're going to have some prizes, food, tips and tricks. We're going to set it up kind of like every room in our office is going to have a different AE in it, and we're going to do different presentations, and it's going to be running the entire time.
If you think this is fun.
Yeah, if you like this, you're going to love the open house for those of you in the Rochester area. And if you're not from Rochester, travel here. So again, Friday, February 7th at 10 a.m. Like I said, there's going to be the meet and greet. Most of the company is going to be here. I think all of us AEs obviously are going to be here. But we're going to do tips and tricks seminars. We're going to have demonstrations. We're going to have additive manufacturing demonstrations. So a big part of what CADimensions does, not only SolidWorks, but we sell the 3D printers. And so we're going to have some 3D printer demonstrations, which is really cool. We get almost as excited about that as we do about PhotoView 360.
If you haven't seen those in action, they're pretty cool.
So if you go to this website, info.cadimensions.com, you can register or just give us a call at any one of our offices and just say, I'd like to come to the open house, and we'll register for you. So again, I know, sorry we ran a little bit long, but that's
too excited.
Yeah, we get so excited about this stuff. So again, if you're free Friday, February 7th, please stop on by to the Rochester office. It's 245 Summit Point Drive in Henrietta, New York, right off the thruway. Again, if you have any questions, give us a call. If you have any questions about what you saw here today, give us a call, and we'll be happy to
or type it right into the questions. We'll
hang
on for a couple minutes.
Yeah, we'll hang out for a few more minutes, and you can type into the questions if you'd like. We'll either answer them live, or if you don't want us to, we'll answer you via type. All right, so thank you very much for attending. Next month, I believe we have our Albany office is doing a special guest appearance. At least that's what's on the agenda for right now. So sign up again for next month. These are awesome. We have a ton of fun putting these on, and we really enjoy doing this.
Tell your friends, tell your relatives.
Yes, definitely. Tell everyone you know to sign on and check out this morning show. So thank you again for attending. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your support. We'd love to hear any feedback about the show that you like and what you don't like, because we'd like to
change out the two hosts.
Yeah, change out the two hosts, definitely. They clearly don't know how to use GoToWebinar. So, all right, so thanks again. Well, we'll put it on this last slide again, and we'll hold on for a few more minutes and answer any of your questions. Thanks again for attending. Apparently, my computer won't play the last slide. There we go. All right.